At the start of 2025, everything finally shifted. The freeze dryer, which had been unpredictable for a number of months, suddenly settled into a rhythm. Our cycles were much more consistent, our recovery rates made heaps more sense. And for the first time since starting this project 15 months ago, I could actually trust what the system was going to do. Before that, every batch felt a little bit like a science experiment. Some were great, some were just stubborn bastards, some went for way too long. And it felt like I was building a business on constantly shifting sand. It was really frustrating. But when the consistency arrived, everything changed. Full Spectrum stopped feeling like a hands-on test, and it started feeling like something that I was able to scale deliberately instead of reactively. Scaling up isn't necessarily about more machines or more coffee, it's turning an experiment into something that's repeatable. And seeing the response to this series, the questions and your curiosity, that's what's really pushed me to lean into the transparency even heavier. Once the freeze dryer stabilised early in 2025, I started thinking differently about the whole project. If this was going to scale, the brewing side had to scale with it. And at that point, I was still pulling every single shot manually. It was 5 hours of brewing for one single batch. At the same time, I was really deep in building the entire packaging supply chain. I was talking with manufacturers overseas, we were finalising die lines and MOQs together, and I was really just learning a completely new language that is associated with the packaging world. And the whole time I'm doing that, I'm also jumping back to the machine to pull another couple of hundred double spros. It just was not sustainable. So if I'm going to build a supply chain that is repeatable, the brewing system cannot depend on me being chained to the machine. When the sachets and the boxes landed, that clarity snapped into place really quickly. If I was going to build a supply chain, I couldn't keep bottlenecking it with 5 hours of manual brewing every single batch. So the Eversa Shotmaster made complete sense. Not as a luxury, not as a flex, but as the natural continuation of the system that I was already building. One of the biggest shifts this year was finally being able to step back and look at the whole system from above. Not just constantly fighting all the little spot fires that popped up inside of it. And that only happened because the process became predictable enough to measure properly. The freeze dryer didn't speed up, unfortunately. If anything, the cycle times actually crept out as the temperature in the shed has begun to rise. But for the first time, I was able to really track the pattern. Our start time versus our finishing time, our tray weights, our recovery consistency, and also our energy use. Everything started to line up. But once the brewing bottleneck disappeared, the labour dropped dramatically, well over 20%. The filtering and the tray preparation became heaps cleaner, and all of the downstream steps, they just became much easier because all of the upstream noise was starting to disappear. It felt great. Scaling isn't necessarily intensity, it's pattern recognition, very similar to roasting. You find the constraint, you fix the constraint. You find the next constraint, you fix that, and everything downstream, it'll just start tightening up for you. One of the most important parts of this build out happened while I was waiting for the sachets to arrive. There was a 12-week window between settling on our packaging format and the pallets landing here in Coffs in my warehouse. I still absolutely needed to keep the Instant project alive, both financially and operationally. So I filled the gap with contract work, a lot of contract work, probably too much contract work. And the truth is, the more external batches that I took on, the further behind I fell on my own production. Every single day was running someone else's coffee, while my own 19, 20 batches that I needed to fill my first 10,000 sachets hadn't even been roasted yet. It wasn't ideal and it was not the plan, but it was absolutely necessary. And that pressure, it really pushed the system to prove itself. I had different roasters, all with their own really different roast profiles of different roasting systems, and all with their own sort of different expectations. But the workflow held. The contract work didn't just fill the gap, it really pushed me behind. And it was that pressure that proved, I guess, the system could handle real volume. And honestly, that's what made the Shotmaster upgrade make so much sense. Because I guess once the system, it can take that kind of load, you realize the only thing that's holding it back is how fast you're able to feed it. But when it comes to feeding it, we're really heading into summer now. We're in mid-November. This is where production really becomes a lot riskier. We're still comfortably doing 3 batches a week, but heat changes everything with this game. Our cycle times, they creep out a little bit. The machine works harder, the freezer works harder for more hours, draws more power, and it's going to cost you more. And because I'm already behind on my own production from all of the contract volume that I took on, losing that 4th optional batch that we are able to push into, it risks pushing everything back further. 3 batches are stable, but really the 4th is, unfortunately, it's at the mercy of the weather. And that's exactly why the container exists in the plan. It's not for comfort, but as insurance really, we need to protect our production because our production is our margin and our margin's everything. And margin gets us further forward. When the freeze dryer stabilised, sampling became the next obstacle. The jars look great, but a $10 sample isn't scalable. So I got really deep into packaging. Originally the plan was 3 20-packs. Antonio, Matteo, Luis, our characters as you currently know them, and the designer sent through proofs. And visually, as you can imagine, they looked amazing together. But Antonio's pink on its own, it just felt a little bit too one-dimensional as a standalone SKU. And honestly, financially, I could only afford one line. So we rebuilt the design a little around a much more, I guess, brand-wide color palette, strong enough on its own, flexible enough to expand into, I guess, multiple variants later, and very approachable for retailers. But once I can afford it, we'll absolutely launch 3, even 4 separate sachet lines, so watch out for that one. But for launch, one hero SKU made the most sense. And sachets changed everything, you know, sampling, accessibility, scalability. We were able to hand someone a new coffee experience without the commitment of a jar. Everything I've built this year, automation, workflow, packaging, Shotmaster, planning the container, none of it was really about pumping out more volume. It was more about creating margin, not just money margin, but margin for creativity and planning, or margin for, I guess, releasing this project at the right moment heading into Christmas. And margin for keeping the whole thing alive without burning out. Scaling, it's not necessarily output, it's stability, it's headspace, and it's the first time I've been able to really step back and build properly. It feels amazing. But again, everything I'm building here, the systems, the packaging, the repeatability, eventually becomes a model other cafes and roasters can plug into when the timing is right. That's the FS Collective piece that we've been working on. It's sitting just behind the scenes until it's ready. These sachets and boxes arriving, this is the first time the whole system that we've been working on has shown itself end to end. We source and roast the green, we brew the brown, we filter it down, we freeze it, we dry it, we package it. Every single workflow, every supply that we've got, every step is aligned. And all of this is landing at the perfect moment heading into Christmas. So firstly, I mean, thank you to everyone who's watched, who's asked questions, who's left a comment, who's started following this whole journey, who's tried the instant. Luckily, this is no longer hype. It's the first real expression of what Full Spectrum can do when everything finally aligns. Scaling up made this possible, and we're going full tilt into Christmas. Episode 6 is next. We're scaling with partners, collaborations, new flavors, new products, new formats. Thank you for joining me, Copy Friends, not only on this episode, but the whole journey. I very much look forward to the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.